Welcome back there, folks, wherever you are in the world. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my process for doing some drawn illustrations for publishing. So you can see on the start, we're starting that there. So, I've recently been commissioned by an Australian publishing group called Sky Nation Publishing. They do a lot of really great work, and the most recent, the book that they're currently working on, is called Beasts of London. It's written by Jonathan Maloney. It's a sort of monster hunter, a little bit of mystery, but all set in Victorian London. And in our conversations when we were discussing what we wanted to do for their sort of Patreon exclusives bundle, because they're a boutique publisher and they do really interesting extra things along with their books when they publish them to make that experience a little bit nicer. But when we were discussing what we're going to do with their Patreon exclusives, we came up with the idea of doing some sort of map, some sort of diagram that the reader would be able to tie into how they were seeing the story itself. And so we discussed a bit. We talked about maybe doing a map of London, which I kind of said, look, a map of London in the 1800s is going to look exactly the same as every other map of London in the 1800s. But we kind of settled on this idea of, since a portion of the book takes place in the lodge, in the main house of this society, well, I could use my love of architecture, my love of design and detail, and actually bring that to life using John's descriptions and my own sort of skills to array something out. So that's what we're watching here. This process has been pretty incredible, getting to see what the actual intricacies of the interior of a house from this time period was. And I've been using a lot of, as on last week's video on using old books for inspo, I've been using a lot of like this old book on English furniture and stuff from the time period, using that to take a look at what all the chairs, extra desks, all those sorts of things. So that has been absolutely great, So there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff in terms of creating something like this. You've got to have an idea of what the author wants, what fits in with the author's kind of their visions of the space. You've got to take a look at what existed at the time, what might be able to be changed if you're in a fantasy sort of situation. But also in terms of map making, I've always sort of had this idea. I do a little bit of cartography and other map making. I'll put up some of my other work just in this sort of area here. So you do a lot of the ordinary maps, but sometimes in a situation when you're trying to tell someone or tell the reader something about the world, those things don't really work. I've always kind of used this example of, if you're writing a book that's got all this political intrigue about dwarves and their social strata living in a mountain, having a top-down sort of Tolkien-esque map in which you can only see the mountain range isn't actually going to give the reader any information about that particular story. Whereas if you take something like a cross-section of the mountain, or you draw like, maybe the dwarves have some kind of fantasy subway or whatever, so you draw a subway map, but you really, really put an effort into going, well, the trains only stop here and there's only one service that runs out to these places. Like, you can get a real interesting sort of sense of what you've created there, all that sort of stuff. So in terms of doing stuff like this, bringing in all these different rooms, all these different styles, all these different spaces, we're trying to find information about the characters that wouldn't be present within a top-down map of London, for example. But everything from the attic to the library, everything from the individual bedrooms all drawn out just a little differently because the characters all have different ways of interacting with their surroundings, with the world, and just all the little details have just been absolutely stellar to get the chance to work on, but also stellar to kind of be able to show and show back. So, as I've said again, this was an absolutely amazing process. I'm happy to discuss more in the comments and talk more about this in the future, about all of the individual things here. But just as a quick video today to show this process and show that I've been working on quite a bit of stuff. And if you want a good quality version of this map, go and join the Sky Nation Patreon. I'll make sure to get a link down in the description. And go and pre-order a copy of Beasts of London. I've read one of the proofs, like the edited versions, and it's amazing. It's a really fun story. There's a lot of really interesting and some not so much likable but memorable characters. There's a lot of really good characters in there. So absolutely go out, get a Patreon, get a pre-order in over at Sky Nation. And if you like this kind of work, because this is what I do, this is my kind of this is where I make a little bit of money on the side of all of my day job and stuff like that. So if you want anything like this, or if you've got an interesting idea, I always love an interesting idea. You got something weird, you want to do a railway map for your high industrial fantasy novel, or you want to draw, you want a drawing of the interior of an airship for your anything you've got, doesn't have to be a set time period. Let me know. I'd really like to help work with you to make sure that that's a thing that you can have to really represent your world. So yeah, follow me if you want to see more of this. Go and take a look at Sky Nation stuff and Beasts of London. Get a copy. It's all coming very soon. But thank you for watching. You've been you.